Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Columbia. How are you? I'm fine. Let's get into it. So today is the third episode of Black by Any Means. I am here with my co-host, Ms. FoxyJazzabelle.
What's up?
And Electric Mayhem 87, also known as Ashleigh.
Hello.
Alrighty, ladies. Let's get into it. So how is everybody tonight?
I'm doing all right. Just today's just been too much going on. Just too much.
Right?
Between yesterday and today, it's been a lot. So
it has, and I can't even keep up with it. Like, I was exhausted yesterday, and today I just feel like I slept in today, and I still feel like, oh my god, it's just for much. So
just
let's
going on. So let's get into it. So
yeah, right. Let's start off with I think the most pertinent topic, which is Roy Moore.
Oh yeah.
It was almost shocking that he didn't win.
Yep.
Yeah, because I went to bed like about 9:30 last. I think I went to bed like really early the night before, and I woke up expecting to hear that motherfucker won. But I woke up yesterday and saw that Doug Jones won. I was like, oh, okay.
Right? Like, I thought, oh my god, I went in, I was doing stuff and I wasn't really paying attention, and my dad called me and said, well, Doug won. I was like, what? You lying?
Stop lying to me, Dad. I can take it.
Right? And he was like, no, you actually won. And I was like, oh my god. Part of me was like, I was happy and relieved, because I know it sets a precedent for Democrats to win in the Deep South, and maybe not a great many wins, but that we can win there. But I was also like, I was prepared to call the Republican Party, and still will, the party of child molesters.
Yep. I mean, I had a weird feeling. I was just like the day before, like the day of the election, I think I was just like, I think I said on Twitter, I was just like, dear Alabama, it's like, if the fact that he messed with children wasn't enough, then I don't even really know what to say. But apparently that was, and it's just like, but again, it's like, why did it have to come to that? Why is that, like, it had to come to like one of the most, if not the most, evil things you can do?
Oh yeah, I think that I feel
my dog is trying to get to the peanut butter.
Right? He's still like, hey, I don't care about no show. You better give me that peanut butter or else.
He's hardcore, man.
This is it seems like this is where we're at now, where, like, it's either we choose between someone, a candidate that's, competent, or someone who's done like the worst things imaginable. And it's like, it's really telling of how far the Republican Party has fallen, and how far conservatives have fallen, really, to the point where it's like, yes, most of the time, most folks vote on party lines, but, like, on one side you have someone who is clearly a child predator, on top of all the other things. I mean, like, never mind the racist and xenophobic things that he said and everything like that, because if we're going to be honest about the Republican Party politically, we all know that the foundation is, especially post-civil rights movement, is basically white identity politics, and racist white identity politics at that.
Right.
So I don't expect folks on that side to be moved by by another white man saying, well, I think that the best time for America, even though we had slavery, was, during, was around the time before the Civil War, because you know families stuck together and it was just a better time. And it's like I don't really expect folks to be moved by that. But you know, on the fact that someone is like preyed on, someone is preying on children. But then again, even that apparently is okay because, hey guys, you know, Roy Moore is from a different time, and you know, that's just how things used to be. And while that might have been true, that didn't make it any less disturbing or disgusting.
I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing that even in when did these happen, like the 60s, 70s, whatever time, I have a hard time believing that even then it would be acceptable for what a 35-year-old man to be coming on to high school girls.
Right.
Of course. And the idea that, oh, well, I'm just from a different time. What, the 1300s? You know, that was the last fucking time this was well, I shouldn't say that. The last time this was acceptable was right around the end of the 19th century. Frankly, I agree with both of you. I think it's egregious that we've moved so far to the right, kind of as a country, that the only way that we can defeat someone who's clearly a neo-Confederate, who is anti-abortion to the point of being in violation of civil rights, who is vehemently racist, who is a supporter of Russia and Vladimir Putin, one of the most repressive leaders in the world, that the only way to uninstall this man, who is clearly a racist, is by saying, well, is by bringing forth people that he's molested. That's it. That's the only line they have. And then they won't, and then the leadership of their party won't even acknowledge that this is a problem. Mitch McConnell got on TV not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, and was chortling about how it was the voters of Alabama's decision whether or not to vote this guy in, instead of vehemently saying, listen, I believe the accusers, he shouldn't be running, the Republican Party denounces him, and if he wins, no one caucuses with him. These people are arguably one of the worst, if not the worst, iteration of the Republican Party that has ever existed.
No argument here.
No argument here either. It's just, and like, it's, and I think sometimes some people are still waiting to see like how much further the party will, and how much, but like how much more do we have to, how many more times do we have to let these people prove to us that like they are not about things like small government. They are not about traditional family values. They don't give a shit about women. Like, how many more times do we have to let them, you know, put the shit sandwich in our face just so we can smell it and like, you know, reconfirm, oh yeah, that this is a shit sandwich. Like, this is not an actual sandwich that I would want to eat ever. It's actually shit. You know, and not only that, with the level of like the level of, you know, anti-intellectualism, like most of these people, like even, and the thing about it is that like the majority of people, sorry, let me just bring that back. Sorry, it just makes me so mad, man. But like,
no, please.
But like, you know, and as we saw again, like it didn't matter, you know, regardless of level of education or, you know, class, whether working class, middle class, whatever, like fucking white people, white men and white women voted unanimously. Like, well, not even unanimously, but the majority, huge majority of white people in Alabama voted for Roy Moore, voted for the racist pedophile. Like, so can we talk about how they're the problem? Can we talk about how white people are the problem? Because I mean, this is not the first time it's happened. It happened with Bush. It happened in, you know, Virginia, where thankfully the Democratic candidates won, and I think in the governor race for that, and another race for that in Virginia. And look again, here we go again. Like, it's like, how much more proof do you need that this country is shitty and that like, how much more proof do you need?
And I agree with the idea that when are, you know, white people love to say about Muslims and to Muslims, well, you need to look at yourselves, you need to go out here and find out what's going on in your communities and police yourselves and all this shit. When are white people going to deal with their own radicalization? When are they going to look in their own communities to their sons and their daughters who are espousing Nazi propaganda, alt-right propaganda, who are espousing far-right views? When are they going to look to their own children, their own themselves, and say, we have a problem?
Because they don't think they're a problem, because that's the rhetoric is as American as apple pie. That's why.
Last year I think I made a video. It was White Fragility, a brief crash course. Actually
I love it.
I included a few brief okay, the first, you can watch it on my channel. It's from last December. First clip is of Tommy Lauren yammering on about something. I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was the BET Awards. So it was that, and it was chipmunked. I chipmunk most of the clips I use because, well, mostly for time constraints, but also partially because I just find it amusing. But anyway, and after that, I was reading off Robin DiAngelo's essay on white fragility.
Yes, very good essay. There's also videos of her talks on YouTube. Also, people can Google them.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. I think I've seen a couple of them, and I basically, and I included clips of that. I included one clip, Armored Skeptic's very astute description of intersectional feminism from his first video response to Steve Shives' Thunderclap, Lightning Strike.
Oh, I'm sure that was a very interesting video. The guy who doesn't know what protected class means. But he's going to explain
Armored Skeptic does like to go from knowing things to being woefully ignorant.
What the fuck does he know, though?
And he thinks robust is a word, but anyway,
yeah, like
that's
okay, because
but the clip I used was it was him describing intersectional feminism as, and I quote, right, the form of feminism that says I'm both a sexist and a racist. Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. And I captioned this. I had captioned that clip with a rational skeptic on intersectional feminism. And I used some other clips too, like, it was just, and basically I said, and that's what and I just summarized it with, yeah, and that's what I think is at play here with a lot of these right-wingers, these anti-SJWs. God, I hate that word so much, but it was like,
just say,
like, yeah,
because that's what it really goes back to. The whole, you know, cultural Marxism, aka globalization, aka the Jews.
I just call them reactionaries, but anyway,
yeah.
Because and it's that kind of rhetoric that's like why we can never have these conversations about why can't white people ever just look at themselves, look at what they think, etc., etc. Like I remember in the video, the full video of Armored Skeptics that I actually made a response to, he basically said, I would say that I'm skeptical that systemic racism is a thing. To which I said in text, I said, if you're skeptical of that, I think one half of a comedy duo has made a horror movie about you in the past year, but
ultimately, I think that white people need to look to themselves, mostly because, you know, I tend to want to look at things and explain things to people through economics, because I hope that that's a way of talking to them that is devoid of whatever loaded, you know, we all have our points of view, we get passionate, and I think that in a lot of ways economics can be dispassionate and can break through some of the kind of clutter, or at least a lot of the rhetoric that antis tend to say drives them away from the conversation. And my whole thing is this: what do you think is more profitable to the United States? Do you think it's more profitable to be a bunch of racist hicks who hate everyone, who find racial fault with everyone? Or do you think anti-racism is more profitable? What do you think that, you know, in the future, do you think countries like Nigeria, who holds a certain portion of US debt, who is a large oil producer on this planet, when Nigeria becomes a much more formidable force, and mind you, that's coming, they are now working toward anti-corruption law and being strong enforcers of anti-corruption laws. Do you think that
don't tell white people? Don't tell white people that. Don't tell Richard Spencer that. According to him,
right?
You know, apparently we've had it better, you know, in America dealing with white supremacy than Africans have in their own countries on the African continent. But I digress. Go ahead.
Better not. Well, I definitely won't tell Richard Spencer a goddamn thing, not before I smack him in his face. What do you think they're going to say if we need their help? Our position in the world is waning. The Western world is losing power, both by its own dumb decisions and just because it's getting older, it's getting less important. The resources that the West produces are found in other places now, and et cetera, et cetera. If Nigeria is in a position to deny our help, do you think your rhetoric puts us in a better position or worse position? Because in my mind, anti-racism means that I can point to this show, I can point to my friends, I can point to people and say, hey, the Western world is getting better. We're doing a better job at diversity. We're doing a better job at white people in particular, recognizing that Africans are persons and overcoming that learning curve that they created for themselves. Racism and the alt-rights view and the rights view mires us in those elder views and makes it harder for us to appeal to West Africa, makes it harder for us to appeal to places like Brazil that's growing out of control, and Venezuela that once it gets out of this slump is going to be growing out of control in terms of economic growth. We need these countries. We need to trade with these countries. And when they can point to our rhetoric and point to the popularity of figures on the internet and say, these are the most popular views in your country, why do I want to trade with you? That's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem, but thanks to the asshole in chief, people are not going to care until it's too late. I mean, it's already too late, but you know, just look at what's happened. Like, you know, 45's pulled us out of he's pulled us out of, you know, ties with, you know, to make sure that you know, that we stop CO2 emissions and stuff like that. Like, he basically yeah, he pulled us out of the, thank you. The name was slipping me. He pulled us out of the Paris Accords. He's basically a person who he just goes out of his way to just make us look like the worst and just totally fuck up. Basically, he's just fucking up everything the black dude before him did. Like, that is his legacy, and that will be the Republicans' legacy, because for the longest time, remember, for the longest time, the Republican Party's, like, one of their sole objectives was to undo Obamacare, was to undo the ACA, and they voted to repeal it every time in the House, but it never made it out the House. So, you know, people were safe. But now we see what happens when we give Republicans, you know, when they have control of the House and pretty much the Senate, even though that's changing. We see what happens when they have the keys to the kingdom. They fuck everything up. And like you know, but we're the ones who are going to suffer from it the most.
Yep.
You know, and I going back to your point on approaching certain conversations with more economic bent, I can understand it, especially given people's fragility and having certain conversations. But the point has come and gone when it's basically time for folks to it's really their problem. It's really white people have to be the ones to be like, okay, this fragility, this blind spot thing, I'm gonna have to work through that in order to really solve this problem. But they don't want to. And sometimes I think going the economic route, while it may help to forge, some foundation of solidarity, ultimately the solidarity will get undone in the end, because they'll do something, blatantly racist, or or do some sort of erasure from the issues. I mean, and that's not to say that, and so I really think that there needs to be a mix. But again, they have to want it, essentially.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree.
More of them have to want it. And they have to understand that change is hard. Change can be hard and often very brutal, and not giving a fuck about feelings. These reactionaries, how they're always like, facts over feelings. But when facts are actually presented to them, they dismiss them because of their own feelings. Because, like, oh, well, I can, understand this, but why do you have to make me feel bad about it? Why do you have to make me feel bad about being white? And are you trying to, elicit, invoke some, white guilt for me, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
and you just want to be like, hey, fuck your feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck your feelings. If you feel guilty, that's nice, but it doesn't even serve a purpose.
Yeah, don't feel guilty. Parlay that into some empathy.
And another thing is,
exactly.
Another
Go
thing
ahead,
is,
go ahead.
the part where they need to work, that could even start with maybe shutting the camera off, shutting your mouth, and do some research. Like, a lot of these reactionaries, they talk about all these things that they don't even understand. It's like, you live in the age of the internet.
About it.
Well, you live in the age of the internet while it lasts. Well, we're gonna get to that, but use the Googles, use Google Scholar. I know some of them say they have reading reading and learning disabilities, but that's what documentaries and audiobooks are for.
Right.
Like, if you have
I'm sorry, like, yeah, and like, I'm sorry for those centrists who are like, oh, well, you tell people to look on Google, but like, anything is on Google. That's a cop out and an excuse. If you are really for people who really give a shit about things they want to learn, if they really want to challenge their perspective, they will do genuine research. They will ask folks questions, but not expect folks to do all the labor for them. Like, oh, what books do what book do you recommend on this? Like, well, what books do you recommend on feminism and progressive politics or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, they would, as much as they can utilize Google to find like the worst shit ever, they can also utilize Google in the same way. But they don't want to, because they're intellectually lazy. They're lazy, period.
And they don't want their minds changed.
And they don't want their, and yeah, exactly. And they don't want to change because they're too invested in that, in the perspectives that they have.
Right.
For whatever reason, for personal reasons, monetary reasons, both. Because I personally, I believe everyone, like the big folks from Sargon to Lauren Southern to Roaming Millennial to even Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head, they are very invested. Yes, I feel the same. Ashleigh, very
right.
They are very personally personally entrenched into the fuckery that they spew on videos and on Twitter.
Well, I'd swear
they're invested in it.
I'd swear I'd said this the first episode, and if I did, fine, you just gonna have to hear it twice. When you've got 800,000 subscribers, when you've got 700,000 subscribers, when you make your living here, that's, you have to be invested in you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, after a while, yeah, you don't have a choice anymore. Yeah.
And when you're, I think Shoe's actually a little younger than me. I think Shoe is like 24, 23, 24. When you're that young and you have 800,000 people hanging off your word. Let's say 80,000 people follow Shoe for the lulz, right? You have something like 700,000 people who are hanging off of what you're saying. That power is alluring. And I think oftentimes what we tend to miss is the power dynamics that these people, from the Bear to fucking Shoe on Head, Armored Skeptic, Sargon, are not just getting off on the money. It's not just the money that doesn't make them want to change their minds. They're white people. If they need a job, they can go out here, shave, present some bullshit resume and go get a job.
Yep. Easily.
It's not about the money. It's about the power. It's about the power to have that many hundreds of thousands of people hanging off of what you say. And what bothers me,
able to influence them, yet while trying to deny that they have any influence over them, especially when their followers go and swarm the people that they don't like.
Right. And frankly,
them, but
right.
Yeah.
And frankly, you have a person like Sargon whose audience owns him. He wasn't always this sort of like apologist for the alt-right, but as his audience grew and swelled with those people, he's had to now capitulate to them. No matter what happens in this world, it doesn't matter if Sargon ends up with 500 million subscribers. He is always going to be incredibly beholden to them, and he is never going to be able to know better. He's never going to be able to do any research. He's never going to be able to have his mind changed in private or in public.
And he doesn't desire to either.
Even if he, the hilarious part is, even if he wanted to, he can't. He's stuck. Yeah. He's less free than you or me or anyone else, anyone in our sphere, because if tomorrow one of us says, "Oh, I read an interesting article today. I want to talk about it. It's antithetical to my view. I have some, I agree with parts of it. I don't." Our audiences aren't going to say, "Oh, you're just a cop-out cuck." They're going to be like, "Oh, okay, well, they found that interesting. Maybe I will too." But Sargon, when he made a video about a short video that was Nazis are bad, all of the Nazis who subscribed to him came out and were like, "Oh my God, how dare you, you son of a bitch, you're a turncoat, you're a traitor." And I remember, I tweeted it, and it was a tweet, and it was a short piece where he said, "I'm just now starting to think that Nazism is a bad thing." What?
Oh, he's just now.
Just now. I will go find that tweet. I will go find the tweet and retweet it.
Yet he continually makes himself as a useful idiot for them. He was recently on a show. I think he was talking to Stefan recently, spreading bullshit about Heather. She wasn't killed by being hit by a car. I think she, had a heart attack or something like that. So yeah, if he's a useful idiot. He is a shill. It's almost like I said. I saw a Demotivator's opinion quoted a tweet, and he was talking about how he doesn't think that Sargon is alt-right or whatever. And I just quoted it and said, I was like, look, yeah, he may not be, on the far right, because that's just what I'm going to call them, because alt-right is they're just trying to brand far-right bullshit, with sprinkle of, Nazism, fascism, and all that other stuff, and trying to rebrand it to make it seem okay.
Yep.
But he's basically trying to brand, he's basically like these motherfuckers in everything but name. He reminds me, and in that way, he basically reminds me of most faux skeptics on YouTube. Like TJ the Amazing Atheist, Chris Ray Gunn, and everyone else who are sort of these shitty, these shitty people in everything but name. Huh?
More barftastic people.
Yeah, exactly. Barftastic. I like that. You know what I mean? Just how, TJ is an MRA and everything but name, and fucking that's pretty much what these people are. They are these things and everything but name. Walks like a duck, walk like a duck, quacks like a duck, but oh my god, don't you dare call me a duck.
My dear friend and fellow vegan hard leftist Captain Andy actually came up with an acronym for MRAs and everything but name, INMRAB, which stands for I'm not a men's rights activist, but.
Oh, good old Captain Andy.
Right.
He makes good content. We've sort of had our we've had our little headbutting moments, but I still think the content that he tends to put out is pretty good. Puts
oh yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I've disagreed with friends all the time. I've disagreed with you ladies before, and I'm still here.
Right? Yeah. And that's that's the thing that I think we have as an advantage over the right, is that they can't disagree with each other. They start disagreeing with each other, and they're traitors and all kinds of other shit. We disagree with each other, and we're just like, meh.
Yeah, which is funny because I find that people who are, more center liberal, all the centrists, they complain that most of us who are much more to the left than they are, they complain about how, we're much more unforgiving and we can't disagree with folks without, cutting them off and stuff like that. And I'm like, you do reach a point when, because of your personal politics, there are just things that you are not going to tolerate. There are certain types of people that you're not going to tolerate, and there are certain types of situations and ideals and concepts that you just won't tolerate, point blank, with good reason, often with good nuanced reasons. And you know what? Like, that's okay. That's okay, because unlike what whoever the fuck tried to tell us in school or in the media or whatever, not all opinions are great. All opinions are special. And you know what? That's okay.
We'll all live.
Yep.
Exactly. We'll live like it's it's fine. If your political praxis is on some really repugnant shit, that's fine. I just don't fuck with you, and that's right. And that's it. And also that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not. One thing I value is the idea that everyone, no matter where they live or what they believe, you have a right to believe in Nazism all the fuck you want to. But don't sit out here and in my mind, there's a difference between you believe repugnant shit and now you're trying to superimpose that repugnant shit onto the public, right? Or you're trying to sneak it into public discourse like a Richard Spencer, whom I have all kinds of feelings about Mr. Spencer. There are days, I don't want to say this because it is an advocacy for violence. So I won't say that, but I will say that there are days that when I want him to be handled with street justice. There are days.
Yeah, I was about to say, go on ahead and say it, girl. He needs to catch hashtag these hands, and that's fine.
For real.
Like every day.
I would like to introduce Mr. Spencer to my what I'm using as my microphone stand, which is the complete works of H.G. Wells.
That's right.
There you go.
Or hey, Richard Spencer, you know, tweet out your location. You know, I got a question. Just, you know, for reasons. I have a question.
All I'm gonna say, Mr. Spencer, is meet me in Oakland, my nigga. That's it.
Not even Temecula, just Oakland.
Right? Don't tell me you know meet me in Temecula. We about to have that conversation.
Meet me in Temecula.
That's my shit. Meet me in Temecula.
There's something I wanted to add a little bit before you continue. And the thing is that people think that like the problem is like, oh, well, you want to police what people think, you want to, you know, convict people of thought crimes or whatever. And it's like, no, that is not the issue. You can think whatever the fuck you want, just like I can think whatever the fuck I want, just like anybody can think whatever the fuck you want. And you can say whatever you want too. Well, when you start to try to interject that BS, your personal BS, into things like public policy, legislation that will affect hundreds of or thousands or millions of people besides you, that's when we have a problem.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's never about people having the thoughts in the first place. Like you said, like you can hold to the tenets of Nazism or Stalinism. You can hold to whatever tenets of whatever political ideology you want. That is not the problem.
No, the problem is as you said, when you're trying to interject that into public discourse.
Exactly. And you having a problem with people utilizing their First Amendment rights to critique your ass. And that's also another thing I think that centrists don't get about us, about people, about those of us who are a bit further left, especially feminists, especially when it comes to feminism. A big aspect, people don't get that a big aspect of feminism, no matter what wave you came through or whatever, is critique, is criticism. You know, so when folks think, oh my God, they're, you know, going after this person, the feminists are eating each other. It's like, no, we're not. A big aspect of what we do is critique. We critique the status quo. We critique the methods that we come up with, you know, methods to go about certain things, to go about changing things and making things better, you know, chipping away at sexist oppression little by little. And then we step back and then we look at those things and see, is this effective? Is this effective? Okay. How is it effective? Is this not effective? Okay. Why is it not effective? What's getting in the way? You know what I'm saying? And that's it.
Feminists, and to piggyback on your point, both feminists and womanists have, their entire existence has been about cultural critique. I was talking to an anti-feminist once in real life, and I said, listen, they were like, well, I'm okay with first wave feminism. And I said, well, why are you okay with first wave feminism? Oh, because it was about women's suffrage. I said, no. Mary Wollstonecraft is recognized as producing one of the most seminal, if not the first real considered feminist work in the United Kingdom, The Vindication of the Rights of Women. That book is about the critiquing of the culture of England at the time and Europe at the time. It's about a culture that doesn't educate its women and the consequences of not educating those women. It's not just about women's suffrage. The first wave of feminism on to this wave of feminism, womanism, whatever slice you believe in, has always been about a cultural critique. So a person like Anita Sarkeesian isn't doing anything that isn't part and parcel to feminism du jour, or I should say on the whole.
And all you have to do is go back to even Sojourner Truth.
Ain't I a woman?
Ain't I a woman? she was critiquing how, you know, how white women were seen versus how Black women are seen. You know, how I have plowed, with these hands I've plowed, I've done this, I've done that, and ain't I a woman? Like, it's always been about critiquing the status quo and holding it accountable for the treatment of its women.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up Sojourner Truth because I was, as some people know, I was an English major in college, so I kind of and I took a lot of classes that were either women's studies or like overlapped between English and women's studies.
Man,
So
I
I
wish
kind
I
of
got to take women's studies. I had to catch up on my own.
Right.
so for a time I kind of ate, drank, breathed, and slept like that kind of feminist literature, like both the Wollstonecraft and the Truth pieces I read multiple times in school. It's like, so yeah, I got to know all that really well. I got to know in fact, I think that um a class I took at Maryland was feminist critical theory, and that was actually the first time I was actually introduced to Anita Sarkeesian before all this brouhaha came about. So yeah, I knew
Really?
about her before it was
Oh
cool.
shit. Oh shit.
Oh, snap.
Yep.
Well, look at that. See,
Right.
me, I had to ask, you know, Black feminists on Twitter. I was like, so, yeah, who were y'all reading to, you know, get all these gems and stuff like that? And I just, you know, they told me Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks and Angela Davis, you know.
Yep.
So I went out. So I was like, okay, I'll, you know, once I got the names, I Googled all the names of, I Googled Lord and Davis and Hooks and, you know, the books that they did. And I went out and bought them or I downloaded them. And it was just me and my highlighter. Just going through stuff and reading and, you know, highlighting stuff that like stuck to me. So of course, like the majority of the books that I have are like highlighted to shit. Because there was just so much good stuff in them.
Right.
But yeah, and from there and engaging online and going about things in real life, my shift, I became much more of a feminist, and my praxis started to shift a bit. So, you know, and the thing is that all this, and it's simple things. It doesn't really take a lot. It takes reading and seeing if the shit applies. Applies in real life,
Oh yeah.
but
And I was lucky enough. I had my political theory professor was a Marxist, and a damn fine Marxist at that. And she was very careful to make sure that our reading list was balanced. So we had to read the classics, of course, but she wanted to make sure that she introduced Bell Hooks and Mary Wollstonecraft and feminist authors into political theory, so that we have a more holistic view. And I really, I don't want to dox her, so I won't say her name, but I appreciate her for that. But it took the sort of deep cuts of feminism, took me a little while to sort of understand and to get out on my own a bit. And then I started to say, well, what exactly is feminism? Do I know what that means exactly? So I kind of started with the Oxford very short introduction and just went on from there and sort of, looked at lists. I tend to be more cloistered, so I tend not to ask people like, what should I read, guys? So I, started on lists of feminists and even and radical feminists, and read a lot of the what is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and got authors' names from that. And have read Bell Hooks, have read Angela Davis, I've read quite a few, and I've read a couple of womanists. I can't remember names right off the top of my head. Yeah, Alice Walker is in particular.
She coined the term, right?
Right.
Yeah, she coined the term.
I think that feminism is a fascinating position generally. And I think that one thing that feminism has is just a diversity of views that I think a lot of, even other political ideologies don't possess. You were talking about hundreds of different.
It's a very broad, yeah, it has, there's so many different, different like subgenres of ideology within this one, under this one umbrella,
Right.
called feminism, that when you go back and look at, you know, the videos of reactionary and try to discern what they're going on about, what they're complaining about, it just becomes more than obvious that like these people have not done even like cursory research on, you know, on what the ideology and you know, of like feminism in general as a political ideology and as a movement. Like they just haven't done the research. So, and but they expect those who have, they expect us to, you know, entertain them.
Right.
And it's like,
They want
why?
you they want you to teach them feminism. So for example, they'll say, well, give me something that isn't the dictionary definition of feminism. And it's like, well, you can go to Stanford's Plato Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and they'll give you a very lengthy definition of feminism and feminist theory that will tell you the difference between liberal and radical feminists, that will break down the different versions of feminism. For example, that'll talk to you about Marxist feminism, ecological feminism, feminist women of color, et cetera, et cetera. But
fuck, even Wikipedia does it. I'm sorry, like you don't even have to get that. You don't even have to get that deep.
Well, I want people to get that deep, because the arguments that they want to end up having are philosophical arguments.
Right. You know, you can get deep like after a while, but you can't even get really deep with them, because they don't even have like the basics. They don't even have the primer, which is more than available out there. And you know, like I said, you know, people may shit on like stuff like Wikipedia and, you know, the geek feminism Wikia and rational wiki and all that. But
it's the bare minimum, and they won't even do that.
Yeah, that's those sites are the bare minimum, and even those 3 sites have like lots of basic information about feminism, the history of it, the different, you know, the main different types, you know, first, second, third, fourth wave, you know, the different types of radical, social, you know, liberal, Marxist, you know, environmental, womanism, you know, things like that. And then like they can't even start with stuff like that, because even I started there, even after getting, you know, names of Black feminist authors and stuff like that. I was reading the basic stuff on top of things, on top of Sister Outsider, on top of women, race, and class, on top of Black feminist theory from margin to center, which gives like the definition of feminism that I tend to go by now: a movement to end sexist oppression. Easy peasy if they hate the whole, you know, for the equality of women. Oh my God, why does it have to be about women? Why does it, you know, because it has the femme and feminism. It's just like,
and to and to agree with Ashleigh's point, they're not gonna, you know, in the chat, Adam Rainstomper says, and you know, the 2 points are related. They want you to defend feminism, and I agree. I even will go as far as say that they want us to teach them. They want us to sit there and to have to go through like teacher and hold their hand and say, this is what a liberal feminist is. This is what, and it's like, ain't nobody got time for that.
And they feel entitled to that, and if you don't give it to them, then it's like, oh well, you just don't know how to prove your points, and that means I'm right. No, it means that you are intellectually lazy, and I don't want to expend my emotional and intellectual labor, you know, teaching someone who doesn't give a shit about being taught to.
Right, and then who inevitably is going to be like, Are you sure? Does that really? I mean, I don't think that's the case. Like the problem with it is I'd be willing to do a series where, okay, let's teach you about feminism. The issue is, though, they're going to fight you every fucking step of the way. They are not going to learn. They're not going to listen. It's going to be every moment, every point you make is going to be some bullshit. Ain't nobody got time for that. You know.
I wanted to add that, like, I actually do work like in educational. Well, I'm a tutor. At present I tutor a middle schooler. I'm looking to tutor other kids. So, well, some of the kids are in college, some kids are younger, and I don't even baby step my students through everything. I will, like, help them get to the information, or like ask them questions to help them get to the answer. But I will not baby them. I will not give them the answer directly. It's like that's not what a teacher does. So it's like they want us to do things that not even a teacher will do.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's like,
and you're not even like, you know, sort of teaching per se. You're a tutor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like tutors aren't like flat out teachers. Like they don't come with like a full lesson plan or anything like that. They just show up and take you as you are. You're like, I'm having trouble with this. Can you help me with it? And that's it.
Yep. And I help and also I can help them, like, learn what they have difficulties with and help them improve that. It's like, plus all these anti-fems, you're not even paying me, so, you know.
Right.
Thank you. Exactly. Like,
it's like, if you want to wire me some money so I can educate you through this, that would be great. But
that would be great.
But since you're not,
even though some may not even be worth that, because it's like, you know, I would tell you pay me, but it might be a better option to like go watch some porn or, you know, stare at the wall for like 15 minutes, because just in, you know, in whatever minutes and however long we've had this conversation, I might as well have been doing that at the time. So it's like, you know, and also, you know, it's like I said, it's the entitlement, it's the expectation of the people who you're throwing the onus on to prove you wrong on something that, like, you've never even taken the time, because you never had the time, you never had the desire nor the inclination to, you know, to genuinely research these things for yourself.
Right. And
I'm saying that as sort of a segue into getting not really back into the Roy Moore thing, but to sort of like swing home the idea of, you know, with Doug Jones winning and seeing what the Black turnout was, and this sort of like performative exaltation of Black women, you know, online and on social media and stuff, you know, and how that never translates into like, it never translates into like genuine thanks and then genuine like compensation via, you know, I don't know, picking Black women to do more things, hiring more of us, supporting more of us in our work, and oh yeah, actually working to, you know, undo white supremacy, since, you know, you are, you know, since it really is up to you, white people. So, you know,
well, because that's the easiest thing. The easiest thing is to sit here and say, oh, Black women saved us once again. Yeah. So how about if you want something small to do, how about dropping welfare queens and things like that from your rhetoric? How about that?
Yeah.
Right. How about
that'd be nice. Because, you know, it's not easy being a queen when I gotta send, you know, when I gotta like work 2 jobs just to make sure that my kid can not only go to school and eat, but also go to these after school programs, which you motherfuckers keep cutting the funding to, so that my kid won't get shot by the cops for being Black while crossing the street.
Right. How about dealing with the basic issues? If you don't want to do anything else, dealing with the dog whistles is something that's simple, it's free, and it doesn't take a lot of energy to do. Stop using the dog whistles. That's how you can thank Black women for saving your ass from a fucking Confederate. How about that?
Exactly. Stop pushing this idea of, you exalt us for saving you guys, just like you exalt, you use us for our labor when you have children and it's time that, they need a wet nurse, or a mammy or a housekeeper. But when it comes to our own kids, somehow we're a bad mother, because we're not there with our kids, but that's because we're too damn busy babysitting and raising your kids.
Or working to be like a responsible parent and provider. Like,
exactly. Just like the lady who she left her kid in the car because she couldn't afford childcare, and she was actually at a job interview.
It's like, oh God, Dr. Phil had her on, he was grilling her, and I so wanted to punch him in the face. I was just like, seriously?
Yeah, besides the fact that Dr. Phil also kind of has a face that you want to punch.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that.
And yeah, it's like we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. And the thing that gets missed is that, the Black women saved us. Da, 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 da. No, motherfucker. We were saving ourselves.
Right.
And those of us who are nice, we're sort of kind of dragging you by the collar with us, like, listen, you'll be okay, just trust us, stop struggling or whatever, but don't get it twisted. The majority of us were saving ourselves.
Right. And Black people, I know this might shock some people out there who may, end up hearing the show and are antis, but Black people vote in their own interests. We have interests.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. We actually
vote for
care
the candidate,
whether our senators are racist or not.
Right? And we actually vote for people who are the best possible representation of those interests, who are going to further those interests. I know Black people are cunning, right?
Yeah, and even with the dirty tricks that that the Republican government there were trying to pull, plenty of us were tweeting about how they were listed as active just in the past presidential election, and then when it came time to go and vote in a special election, somehow they all their statuses went to inactive, and they were trying to turn folks away. Let me tell you something. The Republicans, we got to watch them, because they are really going to turn up voter disenfranchisement efforts now.
Oh, of course. And this is why
they're gonna go 720 on that shit, and it's gonna be scary, and we got to be ready.
This is why I'm saying that from the thing that we need from the Democratic Party now, when we come back to power, when we control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, which will happen again, the first priority will be that we reverse the laws that say that a person who is a convicted felon or a person who is even in jail can't vote.
Some states are working to reform that now, which is actually wonderful.
If you are in jail,
and there were some states where folks who were felons were actually able to vote, and I think it's a wonderful thing, because I think you serve your time, and you come out and you really want to, you basically should get a chance to get yourself back on track. And one of the ways you can do that is being able to get some of those privileges to take part in society.
If you are in jail, unless you're in jail for a crime like treason, which very few people are, right? There is
Right.
no reason why a person in jail doesn't still have political interests, economic interests, and
Right.
it primes them for not being so disconnected from society. They need to be voting. Yeah, the Aryan Brotherhood is going to vote. Yeah, motherfuckers in the Latin Kings are going to vote. But it's unlikely that they will end up voting for things, for public policies that will end up harming people on the outside. To me, we need to be advocating for a universal suffrage, right? That's to me where Black people, an absolute universal suffrage for anybody, no matter what crime you commit, unless it's a crime for which you would have your citizenship stripped, because voting is not a fucking privilege. We are citizens in a democracy, and it is our responsibility, our duty to do for our polity, to choose our public policies and to choose the candidates who exact those public policies.
Agreed.
Word
to your mother.
Just people, get it out of your head that we're your saviors, man. Like,
right,
please.
we're not.
I mean, especially like if you're gonna treat, like shit's just gonna go back to normal like the next fucking day for y'all, for white people. Like, oh my God, yes, Black women, thank you for saving us. Da, 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 da. Huh? What do you mean we're performing erasure against you guys in our movements? Why are you always trying to like start discord and like fractition, friction, and why are you always trying to why are you always being so divisive?
Right? Why do you Black ladies care so much about Black? Like, why you got to bring race into this?
Well, wait, what about the unity, you guys?
Fuck your unity.
I propose a hashtag not your magical Negro.
I love it.
Oh, that's a good one. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that hashtag was actually coined by somebody on Twitter.
Oh, darn.
Years ago.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that's not your magical Negro. It was definitely a Black woman. Definitely a Black woman who was who's active on Twitter. So, because I'm wondering if it's either Carnithia or the Way of the Id or one of the blurred ladies, in Nerdgasm Noir. Oh, they have a podcast, Nerdgasm Noir Network. I can't remember, but that hashtag definitely sounds familiar. I would suggest looking up and seeing if it was actually a thing. If you start it and it comes up like right away, then it was something that was used a lot.
Okay.
But if it's not in use now, let's get it restarted, because we are not here to bag or vance all of your fucking political positions. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Our names. That's right. My name ain't Mammy, nigga. It's Foxy.
Right? And I am a lady. All right. I wear a crown, but I am a lady. And I do not appreciate. And I don't appreciate the idea that we have to come in and save white people. You denied us the right to participate in the polity. You pretended like we weren't human beings for the first 200, for the last 300 years of this polity's existence. But every time you're about to, and you want to fuck up every time you have a political decision to make, you vote for Brexit, you vote for Trump, you fuck up your own polity, the polity your ancestors died to create. But now, right, I got to come in and save your asses from your dumb decisions. No, you got me fucked up. You're going to have to deal with that, honey.
Yep. Pretty much. Like, I'm gonna be over here protecting my own from the mess that you made. If it so happens that a crisis, that a worldwide crisis gets averted from me saving my people, consider yourself lucky.
For real.
Yep.
Because I sure wasn't doing it for you.
I ain't got that type of time. And exactly. Black people. The one thing I will say, and then Ashley, I'm gonna throw it over to you, honey. It's gonna be the rest of the show is gonna be all you. One thing that abolitionists used to say as a propaganda line to get white people on board with the idea of Black people no longer being slaves and having the right to vote was, well, you know, Black people aren't cunning enough to do any damage to our polity. They're not smart enough to be able to have complex political thoughts, so they'll just vote the way we tell them to. How's that working out for you motherfuckers now? That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, take it away,
Ashleigh. This is all you, baby.
Okay. So, are we still on the topic?
We're moving. What was your topic? Because I know I don't even think I picked the topic. I'm kind of all over the place today. So
okay, I think we should talk about net neutrality.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let that be like the, you know, the one, and before we sign off. So
yeah,
go on ahead, girl, do it.
Okay, yeah. So they did vote on it today, and it was a 2-3 vote, 2 Democrats versus 3 Republicans to repeal, but it's not over yet. Like,
yeah, it has to go through Congress. Congress, they still have the ability to veto it, which they have twice already. So yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
And from what I understand, there are, on both Democrats and Republicans, there are a lot of people who are not pleased about a net neutrality repeal. So there's a good chance. So we do have a good chance of kind of pushing for this, for Congress to appeal it.
To veto it, you mean?
Oh, to veto it, yeah. What was I gonna? On Battle for the Net, I was gonna pull up Battle for the Net. That's what I was gonna do. battleforthenet.com. I have a petition going. Okay.
Come on, girl, you can do it.
Okay. Congress can overrule the FCC vote. This is how. The FCC has voted to gut net neutrality rules, letting blah 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 blah. But we can still get Congress to stop this by passing a resolution of disapproval to overturn the FCC vote. We can win, write, and call Congress now. So yeah, there's still action we can take. And fortunately, everyone in my state, Maryland, has spoken out for net neutrality except Elijah Cummings, and I've been pestering him on Twitter about that.
Good.
But yeah, everyone just should act locally in their state. And according to Twitter, to some, I don't remember which, but some activist group on Twitter, a bunch of states are trying to basically sue the FCC over this.
Yeah, the state of California, Mississippi. All right, Mississippi, who we think of as the most back-ass state, the state that repealed slavery the last. All right, is out here with state of California. I think Kansas, many of the middle states are suing.
New York, yay!
New York, right?
Like, because I feel like I there's rarely a time where I have to worry about my own state like not doing the right thing. I'm not saying it never happened. You know, there's a chance that they will slip up, but we've been pretty good. So.
And California, one thing about California is I very rarely have to worry about the Bay Area or Los Angeles, but of course I worry about Eastern California that's connected to like Nevada and Arizona, because that tends to be very conservative. The middle grounds between the Bay Area and Los Angeles tend to be conservative. San Diego County is very conservative, but I want to encourage everybody, call your congressperson. I called my congressperson's office. I told them my name. I told them where I lived, because they base it on, you as a constituent, where you actually live. I called his office. I left him a message. I'm going to call again tomorrow, leave a message. I'm going to keep calling and let him know everyone in my home supports net neutrality. Let them know who you are. Let them know that you're dependent upon the internet. And now is the time. And for all of us here online who, some of us, this is a hobby. We do it. We don't get paid. We're not getting any ad revenue. We don't have a Patreon. We're just doing it for the love of the game. Some of us who are out here making money off the internet, for whom this is our livelihood, now is the time to get involved. And particularly for the right. This is supposed to be their baby. This is an issue of freedom of speech. This is an issue of capitalism. This is supposed to be their baby. And you've got them sort of out, like they're just now getting into it. And then you've got the outlying ones like War Corps who don't even think it's an issue. right?
Well, yeah, they like it's like, I think folks still don't understand that when it comes to a lot of those folks, um, they just bellyache just to bellyache. A lot of times they really don't have any genuine stances or will fight for anything that they think will not affect them in the end. It's very rare that you will see them like actually being like, come on guys, yeah, we really gotta rally against the stuff that they're trying to do, blah 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 blah. Like, don't be surprised if you don't see it a lot from the
Oh,
right.
I know I won't, but I did. But what gave me a little encouragement was I saw a couple of figures. I can't remember who. Some of them blur together, but I saw Blair belly aching about it earlier. I saw the newly indoctrinated Lacey Green belly aching about it earlier. So it does give me a little hope that more right wingers and their allies will understand, because what's going to happen, what I view as happening is this. Excuse me, our viewpoint, you can say SJW, whatever you want to call sort of people center left and to the far left, our viewpoint, unless you are just the most hardcore communist ever, is relatively safe, right? We're not out here. Most communists on the internet aren't even advocating for the direct downfall of like the United States government or capitalism. They're just saying that eventually capitalism will be destroyed and communism will win. So they're not even that bad in terms of, if you had to pick, if a company had to pick a side to be on, it's likely they would pick the SJWs. For example, you watch TV now, you see more inclusive ads, you see more ads that are featuring mixed race people. Obviously that's about selling a product, but it sort of speaks to where a company views, how companies view society, and how companies splice us up in order to sell us things, and what they think is important to sell us, and the images they think are important to sell us. So but
let's also be careful, because there's a lot of companies who may try to do that, but at the same time they're run by folks who are very capitalist.
of course,
Very capitalist, very conservative.
but
Like, don't forget, like, the main folks that we depend on for our internet stuff, for basically most of our communication services, Comcast, Verizon, they were very much for net neutrality getting,
of course, because it benefits their business for net
because it
neutrality to
benefits
be
them. And also remember, folks who, like I said, if you don't see a lot of folks who, quote unquote, classic liberals, or, folks, reactionaries, basically, who spend more of their time complaining about, SJs and, social justice and all this other stuff. If you see them complaining more about that stuff than what's actually going on, like I said, don't be surprised.
I know.
A lot of this, because a lot of this is about, we got to remember that a lot of these folks think the status quo is fine as is, although they think that, white people more than ever are under attack, and they think that the social and political climate is anti-white, even though it's not.
And that
So
is such
if you don't see them complaining about net neutrality much,
I don't expect much out of them.
Yeah, if you don't see them worried about how those of us who really need access to the internet, like working class folks and stuff like that, if you don't see them saying much about that stuff, because they don't really care about those things.
Of course not.
Yeah, someone on Twitter that I follow, she was wondering, she tweeted out today, she was like, what kind of people would vote against net neutrality? And I replied to her, I was like, it's basically folks who don't give a shit about working class people having access to the internet, because, they're not rich, they're poor. So, they're poor working class schlubs. So they don't work. They hardly have any money. So you know what that means? They don't work hard, so they deserve to be poor, and they don't deserve to have things like, broadband internet access. Even though, because of the current society that we live in today, you need the internet to do, like, things that are your lifeline.
Yeah, the internet's going to provide you with access to jobs. It's going to provide you with an education. It's going to provide you with, you know, knowing where to get food, where to get resources, with checking your bank account. I mean, everything. Everyone's
everything, everything on top of folks being able to, you know, exercise their First Amendment rights. Right. And at times I think that message gets lost into the whole, oh, you know, the internet is the place for, you know, where we must defend our First Amendment, our free speech rights. And I'm like, yeah, that's good and everything. What about the person who, without access to the internet, wouldn't be able to find a job, or find a job, find a SNAP center where they can apply for stuff, where they can apply for benefits and things that are going to help them job search, and also, you know, not starve. So,
right. And the internet, you know, one thing is that the internet was once, in the early 90s, considered a public utility, and so all of the laws that apply to the protection of public utilities apply to the internet.
That's right.
The internet is a public utility. It is no longer, you know, it's not something that is private, or it's not ARPANET anymore, right? This isn't the defense, you know, this isn't the Defense Department's internet. This is the internet now. And it should be protected as if it is a vital public utility. And you know, we're talking about net neutrality, but there's so many other issues pertaining to the internet that we as internet folk kind of don't talk about, which is the maintenance of the cables underground, which is the monopolistic behavior of a Comcast, of a Verizon, of Time Warner, of the lack of public Wi-Fi, which should be necessary, of the stifling of internet, of technologies that provide the internet, where Korea is on its way to having 5G in the next 6 months. We're looking at another year and a half before we achieve 5G. Ultimately, we as internet folk, and that's not a dig on either one of you ladies, that is, you know, kind of generally, we as internet folk need to, all of us, you know, whatever our ideologies are, need to do a better job of protecting this thing that we claim to love so much.
Agreed. Agreed 100%. And, you know, we know that, of course, we care about it, but our voices aren't heard by those who are in charge of facilitating that we get access to the internet. And that's sort of the problem. And sadly, 3 out of the 5 folks at the FCC are basically in those companies' pockets. I mean, I don't know if people remember or don't know, but the main head guy, Ashleigh Pie, or whatever the fuck his name is, he used to be a lobbyist for Verizon. So he's acting in his own best interest, and the interest of, you know, of the company that probably still pays him, so, or that used to pay him a lot. So there we go.
So ladies, I believe we have officially covered the gambit. I mean, I feel like we have talked about
and we went through a lot. We had a lot to say. This is good. This is good.
It's great. It's great. I don't want to sit here silently, but I just
so much went on, and I feel like we covered like the main things that have been on everyone's mind, and I am proud of us.
Yes,
me too.
As am I. I feel like we're providing a decent service. We're giving people what they need to hear, which is black ladies ain't taking your shit.
That's right.
Truth.
Right.
Not your marries. Stop it.
Right.
The peanut butter dog is trying to go to sleep now.
Oh well, he's got the right idea, because he's doing what we're all trying to do. So
yeah, pretty much. Like, so I think your dog's letting us know that we need to get on this shit right away.
Right. Yep. So, Foxy, your final words, dear.
Like I said, my name's not Mammy. It's FoxyJazzabelle. If you're nasty.
Ashleigh, honey, your final words.
Be on the lookout for a new series on Afrofuturism inspired by Afroism on my channel. And also, peace, love, and stay hydrated.
Ooh, Lord, you're doing big things. All right, I love it.
All right, I'm looking
All
forward
right,
to
ladies. Good night. I'll be seeing you soon. Good night, good morning, good afternoon.
Good night, good morning. Oh, Yasumi.
Y'all need
Buenas
to stop.
noches.
Y'all need to stop. I'm out.